What is up, Vapesters? I'm your host, Michael Cobb, and we are back with a brand new installment on the Visual Vapor Reviews. Today we're going to be doing the first installment of what is known as the Build Vape Review. We're going to be taking a look at a brand new atomizer tank that I got from going to Laconia Auto Shop called Bear Auto. That's right, people. Same place I got the Tobe atomizer with the Delrin drip tip. This thing is insane. Now, when I first built this thing, I didn't know. I really didn't know what I could do with it until I really took it for a spin. So I typically run at 66.6. This is reading at a 0.72 ohm. Now, what I didn't know is how high the wattage could actually go. But ready? Now, when you see this go up, you're going to think, oh, Visual, you're going to burn yourself. But watch this. 113. Oh, nope, sorry, 130. All right. Sorry, I didn't actually see what I was doing there. Okay, we're going to take some buttery nipple. Make sure it's all wicked up so we don't burn out the cotton. I'm a little nervous here. I haven't done this yet, but... well, I have done it at lower wattages, but I haven't done a 130 yet, so let's show you guys the first 130 watt hit I've ever done on an RDA. I've never done something this high, so bear with me, boys and girls. Whoa, no burn whatsoever. But why don't we get into the main event of this thing, pull up a chair so we can chit-chat about the vape snack. So, we're going to be building on an RDA I never thought possible, and I never seen anything this tiny. This is the Praxis Vapors Derraingeaomizer. This thing is so tiny, it's like, hold on, let's see if you guys can see that. It is tiny. It's got a protruding screw-on 510 threading. It's got a 510 drip tip adapter piece. So it's really simple, really tiny, but what really gets me going, what really gets me, now I'm going to open this thing up just so you guys can see. Whoa, there it goes. It shot off the top. So what really drives me wonky, look at this. It's a 3-post atomizer. I have no idea how to build on this thing, but I'm going to try it. I've never built on something like this before, so... you know what? I'm gonna do it. I really am. So I'm gonna get a quick vape off this thing real quick. I'm turning it back down to 66.6 because that was a lot of vapor. That was way too much for me to handle. Okay, last rip off this for a few minutes. There we go. All right, we're gonna take the Tobe atomizer off real quick. The Tobe V2 Addy. This thing is insane, beefy, cloudalicious, and just puts off clouds for days. So I'm going to take this off real quick, guys, boys and girls. And I'm going to just set it right over there. Now we're going to screw on. Now, this is kind of funny. So, if you notice here, this is a very, very tiny build deck, guys. I've never built on anything this tiny. But... you know what? I said I would do it, and I'm going to. I'm going to first start off by grabbing one of my super tiny Allen wrenches. Let's see if you guys can see that. Super tiny. And I'm going to attempt first to leverage this so you guys can see it better. There we go. Alright, so what I'm going to attempt to do here is I am going to attempt to build on this RDA. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take the leads on this and I'm just going to unscrew them to the point where I can see through to the other side without any problems or obstructions of any kind. And once I do that, I'm just going to stop. I'm just loosening them enough to where I can see what I'm doing. And then I'm going to go from there with the actual leads. Now, I'm going to try my darndest because I really, and I can't stress this enough, don't know what I'm doing here. I've never built on this. But you can see how I've got the protruding screws right there. You'll notice there are little knobs on top of each one where they were flat. And if you notice in the center post there, you can see through each of the holes. That's what I'm going for right there. Now what I've got here is 26 gauge 100-foot Kenthal annealed wire. Now this stuff is pretty strong. It makes, depending on your wraps, it does a pretty big resistance range. I'm gonna need a different screwdriver. Hold up. Okay, so what I've got right here is a Phillips head. It's my current wrapping piece. It's what I use for wrapping on these coils. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take it out of the little hole here, which is its anchor at the moment, and then I'm going to just straighten the coil because you'll notice there's a big bend right in the coil right there. So I'm going to just attempt to straighten that real quick. There we go. So now that we've got it nice and straight, we've kind of got it ready to go, I'm going to take the coil and I'm going to wrap it approximately 8 times to 9 times around this screwdriver. And I'm going to count it as I go. Now this is a little difficult, boys and girls, because I haven't really done this on camera, so I don't really have any, any way to really show you directly. But what I'm going to attempt to do is, I don't have the best camera here, so I've got the wire right here. I'm not sure how well you guys can see that. You'll catch the glimmer by my beard right there. And then I have the screwdriver. I'm going to come down about roughly a foot, and I'm just going to start wrapping that coil around 1, 2, 3, 4. Now what's really annoying is that my hands are kind of slippery, so it does make wrapping kind of difficult. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This definitely is not the easiest coil I've ever built. I have built some different ones on here before, but this is the first time really building on camera. So let's see. I think I got that right there. I'm going to do one more extra half wrap so it comes around to the opposite side. There we go. And now what I want to do is, now that I've got the leads together, I'm going to take my wire cutters and I'm just going to come as close to the opposite one as possible and snip. There we go. So I've got the the one wire set up, and I'm going to, well, somewhat attempt to trim it up, make it a little neater, and then go from there. Now, something to note, I told you guys about it when I first built on the Vape atomizer. This is a 3-post. I'm not used to 3-posts. I've never done it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my tweezers like I have done before, and I'm just going to make sure that all of these pieces are nice and tight together. And I'm just going to use my tweezers here to kind of push the two together without warping it or making the coil jump at all. Now these are spaced coils. These are just the simplest kind of coils you can build. You'll notice how I've just created a spaced build. There's some spaces right there in between the coil. I've wrapped this approximately 8 times. I'm going to double count real quick. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, so I've wrapped this coil 11 times. And that means that it is ready to install on this RDA. So I'm going to take the first lead and I'm just going to slide it through the atomizer here. And the goal here is to make sure that it's close enough to the RDA but not touching the actual side. So what I've got to do here is I've got to take my screwdriver and I've just got to kind of position it so that it's close but it doesn't come into contact with the actual walls of the RDA, because if it touches the walls of the RDA, we're going to have a short circuit, and that's not something we want, people. We want something tiny but not too tiny. So I'm going to move the RDA's coil to the other side of this lead here, and I'm just going to try and space it, so to speak, so that we can push it in as far as possible without touching the outer base. Because I noticed while building this that creating a short circuit would not be very good right now. So I'm just going to keep my hand as far away from that button as possible, because this mod is on and I really do not want that to happen. So I just want to tighten it enough to the point where it's just touching, and we'll hold it down without having to really worry about anything. So I've got the coil in there nice and sturdy. I'm not going to really do anything to it yet. I'm just going to put it in here, set the coil up, make sure it's nice and even, as close to it as possible, that it won't touch the actual outside of the RDA. As a matter of fact, you know what, people? I'm just going to flip it, because I think that I may have put this in upside down, and I'm noticing that, guys. I'm not happy with the way this is sitting, so I'm going to unscrew this and the other one, and I'm just going to take both. Oh, there goes my Allen wrench. Hold on just a second. There we go. Sorry. So I'm just not happy with the way it's sitting in there. I'm going to actually take this out a good portion of the way and kind of flip it, because I'm noticing that this thing is just not sitting the way I want it to. So I'm going to do my best here to rewire it. There we go. Okay. So I just wasn't happy with the way that was sitting before. I'm going to do my best here to kind of pull it through without ruining my coil here. Come on. Give it a little tug. Something you'll notice about building on an RDA, when you're building, you have to be very, very careful how you build it, because if you're not, you can create short circuits, you can get your vape to blow up. It's just a whole mess of annoyances, one annoyance after the other. So now that I've got my coil set down here, and I'm thinking it's pretty darn close to as far as I'm going to get it, I'm going to now restabilize it back to the way it was. I'm just going to try and get this as close to the actual post as possible, because it doesn't really matter if it's touching the post, it just matters if it's touching the outside. So that's something you got to look out for when you're building on an RDA. I'm noticing the grub screw might have a little bit of scoring on it. So you're going to have to bear with me, people, while I tighten these leads down. There we go. So the goal here is to keep it level with the rest of it. And I know you guys can't see very well what I'm doing, but I'll show you guys exactly what I did after I'm finished with it. If I can get this grub screw to tighten. I think I may have scored it too much, which is fantastic, I suppose, considering I'm going to need a new grub screw then. So what I'm going to do here to fix my little error, so to speak, is I'm going to unscrew this grub screw as far as possible, and then I'm going to grip it with either tweezers or pliers or some form of Oh, hold on. Yeah, it's shredded there. That grub screw is definitely shredded. So I'm going to do my best to remove it real quick with a pair of tweezers. There we go. Okay, so I've got the grub screw out now. This is definitely taking a little more than I was expecting. Of course, when you're building, things rarely go as planned, just so you guys know. It is not always the same. You can't just build a coil and then just throw it in your build, and throw that build in your mod. It doesn't work like that. As much as I'd love to say it's all candies and gummy bears and rainbows, it really isn't, folks. It's just a lot of work. It's very difficult to get right, and to get it right the first time on your first build is dang near impossible, people. I've noticed a lot of differences in my builds over the years, and ever since I started building, this is my first actual build on Visual Vapor Reviews. I've never done a coil build on this channel before. So what I'm trying to do right now is I'm trying to ensure that there is not a single bit of unwanted spacing or touchdown on the coils. So I'm just kind of pushing them up and angling them to the way I want them to sit, so that they don't touch whatsoever. And if the wires cross while I'm firing it and they touch something I don't want them to, then I could really be facing something I don't want. So this is reading at a 0.91 ohm resistance right now. So I'm going to just fire that lightly, just pulse it. And now I've noticed it's warped a little bit. So I'm going to place my coil on this and fire it lightly, and hope to God it didn't just break. I'm not gonna burn you, love. So I'm noticing hot spots. It's heating from the inside out pretty evenly. Sure, love. I'd love a pancake. So now that I've got this coil all set up nice and even, the goal here is, because it's not ceramic, I'm just trying to even it out right now. And I'm just trying to make sure that this coil does not and will not overheat at the wattage it's at. So this is at a beautiful cherry glow right now, and I'm noticing a teeny tiny bit of unevenness. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen that one last time, and I'm just going to push the wire over. Where'd that go? There it is. You guys probably saw that. The coil was still a little too hot, and I accidentally tossed my Allen wrench there. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just releasing this piece ever so slightly so that I can move it to the other side. And I'm going to tighten this down just a little bit so I can see where the coil is. And then I'm just going to push it to the other side. Now I'm going to quickly tighten it down because I can feel it slipping a little bit. There we go. Nice and tight. Bingo. So now that I have that done, I can officially just kind of twist this through, kind of tighten it, kind of make sure that those leads aren't going to touch the actual wire and the outer posts, because this is a very small build deck, people. It is very small. I'm just trying to space it out a bit, make sure it's not going to touch that outer deck at all. And it doesn't look like it will, but I've seen decks of all kinds before, and I just really don't want to risk it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, off camera, clip the leads as close to my build deck as possible. And once I've done that, I've noticed that they're just really hard to clip accurately. So what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to take my tweezers and I'm just going to bend that wire upwards as far as possible from the deck on the first one. Because I'm still not done yet. I've still got one other coil to build, which I'm going to do off camera. so that you guys can have a little bit of time in between the two of them. Alright guys, so back from the pause section, we got the other coil on here, ready to go and set up. We're reading at 0.73 ohms, which is very, very similar to my Tobe atomizer. I don't know what it is, but this coil, I guess the resistance depends on the number of wraps, but ready to check this thing, how it fires up. Check it out, guys. It's heating very evenly from the inside out, and I'm very pleased with that. So I'm going to do some last minute tweaking to make sure that this stuff won't touch the outer rim of the atomizer and cause a short out. So I'm going to do what I don't normally do, but I'm going to put this right here on top. Make sure she's not touching the outer walls of the coil at all, I mean the outer walls of the deck at all. By the looks of things, she's not, so I'm not seeing any shorts or any downsides or flares. So now I think we can move on to the wicking process. So I'm going to grab my cotton and I'm going to lightly separate it real quick because I have this rolled really tightly. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to lightly snip where I'm at. There we go. I'm just going to separate the cotton really lightly. There we go. Make sure she's not too thick. Take off some of that excess cotton right there. And I'm just going to separate the two right here in half. And I'm going to lightly twist this piece right here. I'm going to pull it right through. There we go. Make sure she's nice and ready to go with the wicking. Then I'm going to finally, with that part, I'm going to trim it ever so slightly. Nothing huge, nothing ginormous, but I'm just going to trim off the edges here because it's kind of uneven. I haven't used this cotton in a while. And then I'm just going to trim off the edge that I fiddled with. A little bit further down, actually. Just ever so slowly and carefully. We're going to make sure this thing is wicked properly because even though I've never built on a 3-post deck, I'm sure that I can rise to this occasion here. So what I'm doing right now is, for those of you who don't see much, I am fluffing the cotton. I'm making it ready to wick up all that juicy goodness. And now I'm going to tuck very slowly into the RDA itself. I'm just going to tuck all that cotton right inside here. And I'm going to cut a little bit more because I'm noticing it's okay to have a little bit of excess cotton, but I really don't want that much there. So on this end, because there isn't that much room in the juice well, I'm noticing. So I'm just going to take that a little bit off, and now I'm going to fluff it a little bit more, and then I'm going to tuck it right down underneath that coil so that this thing is ready to go. So now that I've got the cotton all tucked down on that side, it's time to go in on the other side, and now you can kind of see what I did there. And I'm going to come in from the other side and do the exact same thing. I'm going to fluff this end out and twist this end together so it makes a very even little piece of cotton just to come through enough and be nice and fluffy without really pulling too much through here. We don't want it to be too thick, but we also don't want it to be too thin either. So I'm just pulling very gently here. I don't want to tear it because this is very light cotton. So you'll notice how it's very fluffy right here, and that's just what I want for this to work. So I'm going to tuck this end right down into it, very slowly and carefully, because that's all nice and fluffy now and I don't have to worry about it. But these have very deep juice wells, so I don't have to really try all that hard to build this. And now I'm going to take the scissors one more time and cut it right about there. And you'll notice how I've fluffed it kind of already, but just in case, I'm going to fluff it with my hands real quick. Just kind of tuck at it and make sure it's nice and fluffy right there. Then I'm going to come in with the Allen wrench and swoop down with it, just so it goes in. You don't want to tear it, you just want to poke it into place kind of and tuck it. You don't want to really push it or prod it. Cotton is a very soft material, so it moves pretty easily once it's tucked in place. Now you'll notice that I've got this thing all wicked up and ready to go. I'm just going to clean up my cotton real quick, my excess, the stuff I'm not going to be using. I'm going to take the last of this cotton and set it aside for later on. Now I'm going to take my favorite juice of choice. I'm not exactly sure which one. Also, I need to pick a drip tip for this chucker. I don't want it to come down too far. I just want it to sit in place. There, hold up. Nah. Let's see. Maybe this one will look good. Nah. Okay, I'm just gonna stick with the black one for right now, because the Praxis is definitely a difficult build. I've never had anything like this to be so hard. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna choose my favorite flavor. I'm not sure which one I should pick. Rockstar, Double Dragon, Bahama Blast, Strawberry Banana, or Mega Melons, Snake Eyes, or Rebirth. Where did I put Rebirth anyway? Did I leave it out there? Yep, sure did. That's what I get for being dumb. Alright, so I've got the Rebirth by Ace Liquids ready to go. And this is definitely going to be a nerve-wracking wick because I've never wicked anything this tiny. It's going to be a close one, guys. So I'm just going to wick all over these coils real quick, very, very carefully. So what you'll notice, kind of, if you're just seeing this now, you'll notice that the juice is just kind of sitting on top before actually soaking in. And that's because of the coils. They are kind of acting as a barrier for the liquid, but it won't take long to get this thing really cranking. So hopefully I'll be able to get this thing fully wicked up. It shouldn't take too long. These things have really deep juice wells, so kind of counting on that. This thing has a really deep juice well, so I'm thinking that might help out a bit. The goal is to not see a single bit of that white cotton anywhere on this thing at all. Heck, I might end up using this entire dropper full just to wick this thing up. Which won't really matter either way, because this thing will pay you back full with flavor. So, no matter which way you look at it, you're just investing in the mod. Or your flavor, whichever one you want to call it. I'm just making sure that these coils are fully wicked up before I even pulse it a little bit. Because now that I think that it's close enough, I'm going to try it out. Whoa! Fireworks right there. I think she's ready to go. Let's try it out, guys. So I noticed that there is a little bit of clearance issue. I'm not seeing any of the pieces touch the posts. So I'm just going to give this a quick rip, and then I'll try and tweak it a little bit more. So we're reading this at 0.74 ohms and 66.6 watts. So for those of you who have never seen this thing, it's tiny, guys. It's really tiny, and I'm not used to it in the slightest, but let's give it a rip for old time's sake. Woo! Tiny atomizer, big clouds. I gotta say, I'm impressed. A little bit of spit back. Noticing that right off the bat. I'm gonna try to change the airflow a little bit. Maybe that'll change the spit back. Holy moly. For a tiny atomizer, that's some pretty slamming clouds. Let's put you guys back up here for a sec. So you guys are leaning back a little bit. Hold up. I'm going to stand it up. I'm just going to adjust my stand a little bit. There we go. So this thing is pretty good. I like this Praxis vape. I've never, ever built on it yet. And now I can't say that because I just did. But it's got these cool little lightning bolts on it. There's no real airflow restriction. It's just airflow differentiator. So when I change the airflow, it's not really cutting it off or opening it up. What this is doing essentially is it's just hitting the coils in different ways. Right now I had it right the airflow right on the coils, and I think that was what was giving me spit back. But what I'm noticing now is I've got the pieces hitting the airflow hitting the post, so it's hitting that cotton and then going up the chimney now. But I'm really not disappointed here. That's really nice. So what I'm going to do here now is, for one last check, I'm going to push the coil pieces over so that I'm not really because I'm kind of nervous about that. I don't want the coils touching anything if I can help it. I don't mind if it's touching the cotton, but the moment it touches that outer piece, I have a short, and I really don't want to deal with a short circuit today. So now that I've got that all fixed up, I think it's ready to try another hit. I've got it hitting the airflow right now. It's not hitting the coil. The airflow's not hitting the coil, so let's give it another rip. Wow, guys, I'm really impressed. This is a tiny little tank. I mean, it's not big. It's not even doing anything close to an overhang on this thing at all. And I'm really liking how the rebirth is hitting it. I'm really impressed. This is actually one of the longest videos I've done to date, and I'm sorry about that. It's not usually that lengthy, but coil building is a lengthy process, and it's no guarantee that you'll get it right the first time. Heck, I burnt myself, as you guys probably saw, the first time I was building on that 5-post. I never knew what to do with it. But I'm getting some big clouds off this tiny little thing. I was not expecting that in the slightest. So it's kind of drying out now. It's kind of ready to take the next flavor. I'm thinking of doing my snake eyes next, or my buttery nipple. Actually, I think I'll go with the buttery nipple next. So when I was building the second coil, what you guys didn't see, the second one, I was building on it, and what I noticed was the first time I had to build a second coil, actually, because the first time when I built it and I went to put it in and fire it, it kind of broke the coil because there was a hot spot or a hot flare in it, and it just wasn't cutting it. So I'm going to put the airflow now in between, so it goes diagonally through the coils and the airflow. So instead, I'm getting straight air all the way through, and it's not touching the coil, and it's not on the cotton either. So I'm going to give that a try. Wow. Okay, let's kick it up to 85, just to give it a try, see what it does. Wow, guys. I just can't get enough of this. This is the Praxis Praxis Vapors Derraingeaomizer, or Derraingeareomizer. It's really cool. I like this a lot. Next, I'm going to be trying to build on the Semeri Cologne, or... well, actually, I don't know how to spell that, actually. Hold up. The Americlone. The Americlone. There we go. This is the Americlone. So, take a look at this. This is a 4-post build deck. Now, gotta figure out how to pop this thing. It's on a screw. So, it screws into the airflow, and then that creates your juice well, which means it's very deep. I'm thinking it's kind of like an RBA or something like that, but I just don't know. I've never seen anything like it, and I just definitely do not know how to build on it. Plus, I don't have the right size screw to build it. So take a look. This is what I'm going to be building on next time for the Visual Vapor reviews. I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to do that, or if I even can. But what I'm going to do real quick, just to kind of see what I can do with it real quick, is I'm going to take my Victory RDA and I'm going to take the top off that real quick, just to kind of get an idea of whether or not I can put the Victory RDA top on this, just to see if it has enough clearance. So I'm going to take this piece off real quick in this tank. if I can. Great, it might be stuck. That's a first. Let's see if I can kind of grip it with the pliers without damaging it at all. There we go. Okay, so I've got it loosened up now. I can kind of grip it without getting my hand too juicy, hopefully. Oh, it was just the tightness of it. Okay, it wasn't really stuck. Okay, so I've got this off now, and I'm going to set it down on top of this real quick, just for kicks and giggles. I'm going to set it down on top of this real quick. Hope to God she doesn't fall. I'm going to set her down on top of this RDA on top of the Amera Vape real quick. And I'm going to take the bottom of this one off, my Victory RDA, the deck out. Hold on. This thing's got quite the grip, or juice lock as I like to call it. There we go. Okay, I got the juice lock out. I'm just going to clean this up real quick so it's not leaking everywhere. Okay, so I've got that set down. Now I'm just going to see if this fits real quick, because if it does, we'll be in business and we won't have to worry too much. So this thing has a top airflow anyway. So I'll be utilizing the top airflow and I won't really be using the bottom at all. So I'm kind of nervous, but it looks like it'll fit. So I think it will be good to go. So that's what I'll be doing next time on Visual Vapor Reviews, and that's pretty much the idea. So I'm really happy that this worked out and I was able to do this build for you guys, because I honestly didn't know if it was going to work or if I'd even succeed on building it on the first try, because I thought there'd be a lot more pause scenes and that this video would take way longer than it did. But thankfully we were able to get it taken care of and built on relatively quickly. So that's a big help, and thank you so much to Ethan for donating these flavors and these tanks, and I can't wait to do so much more for you guys. It's been a really good time doing it. I've had a lot of fun, but now it's time to sign off and call it a day and go eat some pancakes, which my beautiful fiance has made for me. I'm really excited to try those out. She put some cinnamon in there, which I've never had before. I've never had cinnamon in it, in my pancakes, so I'm a little excited, nervous, unsure, but grateful nonetheless. So I've got my double dragon. I'm just going to fill that up for one last puff and for the cutscene, so you guys can sign off and get about with the rest of the day, because I'm sure you're tired of hearing me talking. So I'll see you guys next time, because until that time, I'm your host, Michael Cobb, and these have been the Visual Vapor Reviews. Thanks, guys, so much for your support. It means a lot. Stay sexy. Peace, guys.